Call the meeting to order. Parks Tuesday, May 7th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Any changes to the agenda?
No.
I look for a motion to adopt the agenda
I'll make that motion.
by Bernie,
Second.
second by John Hess. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Look for approval of the April 8th, 2024 minutes.
I make a motion to approve it.
Made by Jim,
I'll second.
Second.
second by Charlene. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public comment. Jim, you got a couple things you want to talk about?
Yeah, I got something with Taft Park. Just, the city really hasn't done anything on the memorial part of the park since before we started, okay? And that's been almost 8 years ago. And what it is that obelisk that's down there with the big deer on top, or the eagle on top of it, was put in there in 1928. And we moved it from where it is to a different location. And it hasn't been updated, the engravings on it, which recognizes all of the wars or conflicts that we've had. And in the last 8 years, there's been a number of them. And I'd like to have it considered to get those updated. There's really no hurry, Ginger, because we're not gonna have the ceremony for Memorial Day at Taft Park. The entire thing is going to take place at Floral Hill. So everybody understands, and then we're still gonna have the Legion will have a luncheon at our post after that at 11 o'clock. So that's it.
You got any idea of the cost or who does that?
Pardon me?
You have any idea of the cost and who does that type of work?
I have no idea what it cost the first time.
I can talk to Cody Callis over at Mathewson Monument. So
Yeah.
I'm sure he has an idea. Can bring it.
Yeah.
If it's anything substantial, it would need to be approved, so.
Shall we bring it up in the next meeting possibly?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, have it on for the agenda for next meeting then.
Sure.
And we'll approve it then.
Okay.
Okay, consider approval for Riverside Parking Bait Shop lease agreement. Ginger.
So it has been 6 years since the last time, we renewed our agreement with, John and Ann Shea down at the, boat launch, at the bait shop. We spoke with him last, I believe it was a couple weeks ago. The only change that he had, was that he requested the city maintain the parking lot. We did discuss that internally with Superintendent Hammonds and Director Gursky. That's not a substantial thing for us to have to add, and oftentimes we do it just to pass through there anyway. We did ask that Mr. Fichet maintain his customer service area at least 5 feet from his building, so that that's kind of like the sidewalk area where they would come in and come out of his building. The relationship that we have with them, selling our boat launch stickers there, any kind of customer service that we can't do regarding the boat launch during the off hours. John and Anna did a phenomenal job with that. They maintained their records properly. So, that's really all I have to say about the agreement. I know that John, has chosen to take a step away from the circle tonight. And if he has anything to comment, more than welcome.
Thank you, Ginger. Members of the committee, thank you for giving me a couple minutes to just ask for this lease renewal. And I thought it'd be a good time to also update some folks may not know the history of the bait shop and how a piece of private property come to land within the public park. And I had a unique opportunity. First off, I'm here representing John Fouché and my wife Ann Fouché, who without her the place would continue to exist. We live at 914 South Pearl Street. I'm here as a citizen tonight. But having had a wonderful opportunity growing up in New London, I started at the bait shop when I wasn't even old enough to drive. So I've worked there for 34 years. During that time, assisted with 3 owners, and which one owner was a dear friend. He was like a father to me, a very close friend, Don Cashmore, who owned it for 17 years. And in 2011, Don passed away, and my wife and I continued to assist Don Cashmore's family in that year of transition to get things situated, come up with a succession plan. The place went out for bids to somebody to buy the actual building itself. And during that time, the city was gracious to extend the lease to Cash's family. And Ann and I just managed it for the family. And finally, with all the legal stuff, it took till 2012 to actually finalize the sale. 3 bidders bid on it. Ann and I bid high enough to fill our obligation to Cash that we would let his cats live out their natural life there. And so Ann and I became small business owners. And that's where we went from employees to first time, very new business owners. And it's been, the city was gracious enough at that time to make the lease term 6 years so that we could secure some outside financing to buy the place. Because it's pretty hard to get a loan for something that you don't actually have a deed to. All you have is a bill of sale. And so then here we are. That lease was renewed 6 years ago, and now we are we've been in business there 12 years. That building's been located in Riverside Park since the late 50s. I had the opportunity to work with the man that moved that building there. His name was Charlie Dorsey. He's as old as my great-great-grandfather because they used to work together. So had an opportunity when I was about 13 years old to build a garage with Charlie. He'd tell me about how they moved that building there. It was a root beer stand or something somewhere. And they moved that building there. Speakers are still on the eaves outside the building of the bait shop. And Charlie and his wife had a breakfast place there. And prior to that, at that landing was just a big clam bed. If you've ever gone out there swimming or that riverbank, there's a real muddy flat, a very large clam bed. And back in the old days, there was a button factory in Fremont. And so that was where they harvested a lot of clams back there. And there was a kind of an encampment where they cooked the shells down. And then they took the shells to Fremont to be made into buttons. So it's always been kind of known as a landing there. And back in the 50s and 60s, the American Legion had a very active clubhouse, and boating was getting big on recreational boating, was getting big on the river. And they felt it was good to have somebody in that establishment to kind of be not a harbor master, but somebody to kind of have a presence and assist boaters and operate a business as a concession basically for the boat launch. And all through the years of looking in the legal notices of the city, it was actually called referred to in the legal notices as operators of the boat launch or marina operators. And even back in Burt 66 Marina, then, in the 70s, late 60s and 70s, Burt Burcon had a Burt 66 Marina. They sold everything from snowmobiles to snow blowers to boats. They had outside boat storage. Even had one boat stolen once, off the yard. And then from there it was Ziggy's Quiet Sports, which I remember as a kid. They rented, cross-country skis and they were into bicycles. They actually sponsored a Nordic team in New London. Hatton Park had, of course, still has groomed trails. And when I started working there, in the 80s, I remember doing several hundred ski rentals every weekend, and that was a cash cow. We still have all the skis up in the attic at my house on Pearl Street, so if you know anybody looking for old skis, we give them to people. They're old, but, so anyway, after Ziggy's Quiet Sports, Kendall Jones and Kendall and Dawn Jones, purchased it. They first come up, got the lease from the city in 1988, October of 1988. And they had it for a period of years, and then Don Cashmore, well, there was also Riverside Marina in there, Dan Buss and John Burmeister, before they opened up the one where the church is now. They were in there for a short time before Kendall bought it. Riverside, he went from Riverside Marina to Riverside Sports. And on February 2nd, 1994, the lease was granted and amended to Don Cashmore for Riverside Marina operation, with amendments to deal with rental fees and language for a proposed second story. Cash still has a model of the building, about this big. It's in the back room of the bait shop, but it has a second story put to it, which didn't end up occurring, but because you can't put on that expensive of an addition, because it just didn't go through anyway. But when I first started working there, part of the lease, this was kind of funny, but the repair and maintenance of the toilet facilities will be split between the shop owner and the city. And then, of course, the boating grant came through and the bathrooms were built across the way. But until then, there were 2 bathroom facilities in there. There was a men's and a women's, which still are in there. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting one. I was working the day that that parking lot was paved. My mom dropped me off to work that day, and I was there and just watched the steamroller come back over. Prior to that being paved, there was no curb in the front. That whole parking lot was just gravel. And yeah, time flies by. So here we are today. I think it's valuable to, even long after Ann and I are gone, really look at the city. Can find a way to make sure that there's always someone there, because I think vandalism has probably been kept at a pretty low rate in that particular park, because of the presence of people there. Cashmore, during his 17 years there, somebody was vandalizing the soda machine. Cashmore walked out with the baseball bat and asked him if he could help him at all. They stopped doing it right away. Then in the last 12 years, I don't know of any deliberate vandalism. We've opened every day consecutive. The last day that the shop was closed was for Don Cashmore's funeral. That's the only day that has been closed in the last 13 years. We have owned it for the last 12 years. We've had 4,440 consecutive days of being open, even through the big blizzard in 2018. Christmas days, we have not closed. We've had 53,280 hours of in-person point of contact at the park. We have maintained the parking lot. We've paid for snow removal. As far as I know, it's the only city parking lot that private organization's been paying for the snow removal. We often do it ourselves with the snow blower, guys that show up in the morning have picked up shovels. We have a lot of friends that have plows. We try to take care of it right away in the morning, so we can keep that flow of people coming through. Wintertime is a busy season for us, for ice fishing, and we also we are a DNR licensed agent. In the last 12 years, we've handled 45,180 transactions for the DNR, and we've collected $477,242 for the state DNR. In those 12 years, we've processed and sold 3,357 annual boat launch stickers valued at $85,700, which, of course, this committee knows all that money goes back into maintenance of the boat landing facility. We keep track of 3 pots of money there. The DNR's money, they have their own till that we have till for them separate. We keep the city's money separate, and then of course the business. I think we've been pretty good stewards of the city's property around there, and I totally understand if the committee doesn't wish to pick up that bit of snow when they're doing the boat launches anyway. They do keep the snow removed at the boat because it is a convenient place for plows to turn around at the city limits. Also, the DNR has fur buying weekends there. The DNR uses that parking lot, and then occasionally recreational users will use that as an access spot to get on the trail, which runs on the south side of Ivermex. So that's our ask tonight for a renewal of the 6-year lease and to somehow maybe possibly include the snow.
Anybody else have any other questions for John? I think it's a great asset to the city just for the purpose of selling boat launch tickets and stuff like that on off days and stuff like that. I think it's a great asset. So I'd look for approval of the Riverside Park Bait Shop lease agreement.
I'll make a motion to approve the Riverside Park Bait Shop lease agreement with the including for that 6-year term and including the snow removal for the parking lot, minus the 5 feet in front of the building.
I'll second it.
Motion made by John, second by Bernie. Anybody got any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like it completely totally explained in the minutes that I am removed from that vote, and I think either have to be noted as an extension or removed myself completely from that.
Yeah, all right, we can do that.
Prior to.
Sure. Hey, Ginger, consider cable transmission equipment upgrades.
This will be actually Chad. He's been working on making sure that we can keep Access New London alive and well.
So as everyone probably knows, it was actually about a year ago, March 14th, we found out that our PEG channel in 2023 went down. I've been working with Charter Spectrum during that whole time, on and off. I've been dealing with different staff members because of retirements and having to start all over. Initially, the response from Charter was the reason why we were down was because our equipment failed in transmitting the equipment. Took me a while to figure out how to prove that, but I did prove that our transmission equipment was working. So it was something outside our building that was at failure. So it took a while for getting a response for techs to actually look into it and confirm something between here and there is not working. The equipment, our transmission equipment, and I'm assuming their receiving equipment is over 20 years old. It's old analog equipment. It's beyond its useful life. So definitely time for an upgrade. But in working with Charter and Spectrum, their initial comeback to fix it was that, oh, there's gonna be $30,000 worth of equipment and stuff outside our building that needs to be done to restore. Plus, they were gonna charge us $800 a month for the transmission lines. And I said, time out, reference state law, the state statute specifically indicates that they cannot charge us for that transmission. Took me a while to get that with them and have them agree to that, but in the end, they finally, yes, they can't charge us for any of that. The only thing that they can charge us is for our transmission equipment in here and the cost to set that up. So, right now, to get us back online, our side, it would be a one-time cost of the equipment, and then they would come in, configure it, and get it all working. One-time cost of $7,032 to do that. They have to update all their receiving equipment on their end to a digital format so they can receive that signal and get us back online. I asked for what a timeline for that would be. I was talking to more of a salesman and setting the techs. But I'm guessing it's gonna be at least a 4 to 6 month process for them to actually go through the whole thing as well. But at least I finally got some indication or a plan with them to actually move forward. I still get comments, why aren't you back online? Why'd you stop broadcasting on cable access channel? I try to explain to them that our technology failed and it's old equipment, we need to upgrade. So I think that this would get us, since this is a digital format, this would get us beyond my time here. And, you know, and as time goes on, maybe less people will go to the cable's access channel. More people go online to YouTube and stuff like that. We obviously have a big following with that. So maybe this is the last upgrade ever for cable access channel, but we still get comments about that. There's a population out there in New London yet that does gravitate more towards cable access gen online YouTube as of yet. So this is another way that we are broadcasting our information, getting our information out to be transparent to the community. So if you guys want to bring the cable access channel back online, we'll need to look at approving a cost of a little over $7,000 to make that happen. Any questions?
And we have, that money is in the cable fund, right?
Correct.
Okay.
It's over $100,000 in that. cable
Yeah,
fund today.
that's in capital project.
Correct. So it's not, it's separate from the capital projects fund. It's
Yeah.
its own, you see that when Judy goes through that
Sure.
for finance personnel,
Yeah.
that reserve fund. So yeah, it would come out of that.
Anybody got any other questions? I'd look for a motion to consider the cable transmission equipment upgrades in the amount of $7,032.
Second. Or then make a motion.
I'll make the motion. You second. I'll make the motion. Charlene seconded it.
And it's, make sure we say that it's out of the cable
Oh,
reserve.
and it comes out of it's out of the cable reserve fund.
Mhm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Update report, Ginger.
As presented in my memo, however, I do, just a couple updates, with the overflow boat launch and courtesy dock project. I did get a new, design back from Schmidt's Docks, that will work and will not need a permit. So that's a step forward in that process. I've got about, I would say, over half of the application for the funding filled out so far, so I should have that hopefully done by the end of this week, if not early next, to be submitted by June 1st. I will need to have a resolution for that put on the June agenda. We'll look for that on the next month's agenda. As far as Hatton Park goes, everything's taken care of up there with the bathrooms. I met with the paint company and the painter, and then the general contractor for that. They will be fixing the epoxy coating on the walls. It was an issue with where when the contractor was installing the partitions, they chipped that. It's a very hard substance that they put on the walls and they chipped it and it flaked. So it's just a touch up that they need to do around, I think there were 4 spots. I did get the information from the paint company, I spoke with them about, a warranty or something like that, if this does bubble, and she said she could tell from the piece that was peeled off that it was not from a bubble and it was from a fracture. So somebody would have to come in with something hard and hit it to have that flake off like it did, which was the drill in this instance, putting the partitions up. So made contact with them and they assure me that everything else should be fine. Well, that's all wrapped up. We do have rentals. We had rentals this weekend, and then we have the May Day Festival down at Hatton Park this weekend as well. Everything else is tied up from the concerns of the storm damage last week or last month, as far as the racetrack field go and Memorial Park. That was all covered by insurance. And then last but not least, with the Hatton Park update is that Christine and I will be representing the city at the end of the month with the Historical Society's Review Board to review the designation of the state and national registry. So that's all exciting news moving forward. I applied for funding to the Theta Care Medical Center endowment fund. They will be providing us $15,000 to replace the weight equipment in the pool. Jim's working on getting that taken care of. Wi-Fi, I know, was something on the mayor's list to have checked off, so he can check that off his list. That's taken care of. And then we've just been very busy connecting with ball clubs, special events, contacts, and just making sure that everything is ready today. I actually met with Wolf Rass. They are going to be doing some plantings and cleaning of beds for us right now, in lieu of a gardener position that will need to be hired still. We hired a gardener at the beginning of April, and she was with us for 3 days and decided that it wasn't for her. So unfortunately, we're a little behind just in clearing beds. The last frost date for Wisconsin in this area is usually May 10th. So we're not too far behind in like planting or anything, and we won't recommend to do any plantings until closer to June 1st, but we want to stay on top of that to keep the city looking good. And last report, I know you may have remembered that I applied for some funding to purchase a new senior van. I believe it was back in 2022. I did receive the funding for that. The grant agreement, however, was initially, they told us it was going to be an 80-20 grant, where the federal government would be giving us 80%. Well, then after the DOT learned that the funds from the federal government were only going to be providing us 70%. Now I've gotten a new email with the actual grant agreement that they're going to be able to do a 76-24 split for that. So we're not going to be on the hook as much as we thought we would, but we will still need to have, I have to look through here now, some additional funding requested. Initially, I asked for 26,580 to be that 30 split. However, no, 20 split, and then with the 76-24 split that has been added with the vehicle price to be $37,985. So I will be asking capital for $11,405. Just to be fully transparent. The cost of the vehicle itself is. Should have had this written down, but I didn't. We just got this information, so I apologize for. Kind of being clustered over it. So the bus, will cost a total of $1,403. The total federal state share will be $105,000, and then our local share will be $37,985. Judy and I will be requesting a meeting before the council meeting, whether it work as the Park and Rec committee goes first, requesting the funds and the approval of the grant agreement, or Judy goes first with capital. I'm not sure how that's all gonna work, but we'll have to have this approved at the May council meeting because they need the check in hand to purchase the vehicle by May 31st. So it was a really fast turnaround. I know they've been sitting on it a while. They told us that we got it, I think back in February, but they didn't know all the details. So now they know all the details, so the request. Is there any questions on that? I know it's a lot to take in without anything in my memo about it. And I'll have a full detailed memo on it for the next agenda for that meeting before the council meeting.
Did Schmidt say about those docks, did they say how long it would take for them, if once we get, say, the approval for the grant?
No, we haven't gotten that far in
All right.
discussion yet.
And was the grant 80 or was it 50?
That will depend on how many people apply. That's why I want to get in the June 1st on how much is in the pot. I've learned that that's kind of how these state funds work, is how many they promise 80, but it's all based on how many people apply and how many funds are asked.
Then do you got anything else for Ginger? Okay, we'll review the next meeting date,
So
Tuesday, June 4th. That work?
yeah, it's gonna have to be the 21st of May, after or before council meeting.
The special meeting.
Yeah, the special meeting.
If I can, I wanna add something on next month's agenda
Mhm.
about trailering the lawnmowers.
Okay.
How many dollars on new lawnmowers? And running them up and down the road, it's too much wear and tear on that lawnmower. I think they should be trailered.
I did put together a map for you, showing where we do trailer and where we don't. So we can do that internally first and see if it needs to be a
Well, I've been-
meeting.
I go down to the bait shop every
Right.
morning and I
Yep.
watch them run up and down the road and they shouldn't be.
Yep,
The only place they should be running those lawnmowers is to have mud.
they mow a lot more than just that
I understand
through
that.
here. So I think it'd be best if we looked at that map so that we get into. And we'll look at that first.
They gonna take my money.
Well, I know, but
Because we just spent
I don't know.
$100,000.
Well,
We'll start there. We'll start there.
yeah, I
And
don't
then
know
we
if it's
can
a committee.
add it to the
level.
agenda.
Yeah, it's more of an internal thing. But Luke would love to sit down with you and talk about it.
Anybody got anything else? And our Tuesday will be our June monthly meeting, and then we'll have a special meeting in May.
Right, yeah, yep,
We'll probably do that before the capital. 'Cause ours is
yeah,
only gonna take 2 minutes.
yeah. Judy and I were talking and we'll probably do like a 6:30 and they'll be 15 minutes each.
Mhm.
That's all right.
Somewhere
That
in there,
makes sense, yeah.
because you're gonna have to do a capital projects to approve funding, the extra funding, and the
Right,
Parks and
And
Rec
have
one
meeting,
to
okay.
approve the agreement, and then refer it all to council, so Ginger can have it all done by the end of the month.
Put the horse, cart before the horse. Okay,
Right.
What is the date of the capital one?
It would be the same time. It would be all the same night as the, council meeting. Yeah,
So you hypothetically would do Parks and Rec at 6:30, capital projects at 6:40, both referred to council at 7 o'clock.
yep.
anybody got anything else? Look for a motion to adjourn.
Like that. Second.
Ernie made the motion, John second, all in favor?
Aye.